Hi there, Nancy Mueller here, the one and only Life Sensei, with another Life is All About Choices conversation. And today, my guest is Rebecca, and we are going to be talking about how Rebecca works with moms to understand the power of law of attraction and how to manifest more of what you want and less of what you don't want, how she learned how to do all of this, how she's kicking ass and taking names in her business life, her personal life, her mom life, and how she's helping other women do the same. Rebecca, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me, Nancy. I'm so excited to be here and to share some of my story and how I've transformed my life. And yes, I can't wait. I'm so excited to be here.
So I love it that the universe brings me fabulous people into my life. I love it when I am introduced to someone and the universe says, oh my gosh, you have to meet this person and that person and that person. And Rebecca, you're one of those people, because with me living in the United States and you living in Australia, you're in Australia now. Yes.
Yes.
So it's fantastic. I feel like the internet is like the universe's way of bringing us all together and showing people, look, you don't have to do this alone. There are many light workers out there doing fantastic work, and just take a break, sit back, and know that the universe is supporting you 100%. And so I'm really glad that you and I are in each other's lives.
Thank you. I absolutely agree. Yes, I can't believe how it all happened. And when I started writing my story, how I was sent to Adriana, who kind of was the one who brought me to you. So yes, I'm so thankful that the universe brought us together, because yes, you put something out there and it's amazing how people just turn up at exactly the right time. So
Absolutely.
thank you.
So Rebecca, before we go any farther, can you tell everybody who you are, what you do, and why you're so fabulous?
Oh, thank you. All right. So, well, my name's Rebecca. I'm originally from Germany. So I came to Australia nearly 12 years ago now, and fell in love, met my husband on a tropical island. We moved to New Zealand, ended up in Adelaide, South Australia, where we now have 3 beautiful children. And I'm a professional newborn and maternity photographer. So, however, my journey wasn't as straightforward and easy as it might sound right now, because I'm also an empath. I discovered a lot of challenges around motherhood, and finding that purpose, that career that gets me out of bed excited every morning, which I knew from a very young age that I was here to do something around like that, something bigger, something that excited me every day. So from a young age, I knew really it wasn't that, everyday job that was out there. It felt a bit more like, well, what I'm doing one day is kind of not there yet. It's not created. So, however, so I built my photography business after having my first 2, and then I had a surprise pregnancy as a third, which kind of, threw all the plans out of the window. And because my husband was also working in a high corporate career role, or is still, so it didn't really allow me to keep going on the business that I just started to build up at the time. And so, even though I was, it took me maybe a week or 2 to get my head around it, and I was so excited to have this third baby in our family, but the head took so much longer to really get along on the journey, because even though the heart was there from the start, my head was already somewhere totally different at that part. So, and then there was a lot of, financial situations that changed. The financial situation changed. Obviously, we needed more space, and I at the time knew the only way to make my business work is if I could work from home. So I manifested our dream home when our baby was like 6 months old, I think roughly it was, because I knew I needed more space. At the time, financially, it wasn't quite looking that, you know, it would be possible, but as the universe wanted it, my husband got a promotion, and it didn't take us long to actually find that dream home. I knew it had to be somewhere where I was connected to nature, where I could have the studio space to photograph newborns in. I knew I wanted to be able to walk to school with the kids so that, you know, they have that connection to nature in the mornings rather than rushing through traffic every morning to get to school. And now that's what we have. Like, yeah, literally look at, so we're in the Adelaide Hills. It's only 15 minutes to the beach, and we've got, you know, koalas in our backyard basically, and it's amazing. So yeah, but anyway, and when I then found myself in that space of being home with my kids, it definitely wasn't as I thought it would be. So as a lot of mothers probably can relate to, and especially if you're an empath mother, even more. So there was a lot of mental work and needed, and I guess as I was at my lowest, that's when I had my real spiritual awakening, even though I already understood the law of attraction and how it worked at the time when I manifested our home. Really, the connection to spirit was, changed to the next level when I found myself sick and my kids haven't had sleep for ages, and that one morning I was walking, and because I got myself up every morning, that was kind of my routine. I needed to have time to myself before my husband would leave to work. And that one morning I was out in nature and I was swearing, I was angry. I was like, oh, why is this so hard? Why are you doing this to me? If there's someone up there, why is it so hard? And all I could hear, it was actually the feeling that started first. My whole body lit up. I had goosebumps literally from my big toe all the way up to the top of my head. And I heard this voice saying, Rebecca, you can achieve anything in life you set your mind to. And anyway, in that moment, I really thought, am I going crazy now? What was that? And yeah, so, and then, you know, finding answers and really stepping into the power of my true purpose and who I am actually, and my gifts really, because obviously having gifts that connect us to spirit are incredible, and they can help so many people on their journey as well. So that's why now that's part of my journey. So I help other mothers really find that soul purpose, that soul aligned business that I want to try and create with them, because I really, really believe it's if you find that soul gift and if you combine it with your business, that's when life flows, that when motherhood, you become a better mother, and everything just works out. And I truly believe you need to look at motherhood and business as one. So
I'd like to take you back just a little bit and rewind just a little bit when you were sharing your story. You talked about how you had 2 children and you knew that you wanted to be a photographer and you enjoyed life, your husband, your family, and then you found out that there was another child on the way. And for a split second there, you were asking the universe, like, seriously, just when everything was going along swimmingly, now I have this next child that's going to be forthcoming. And as most mothers to be will do, you know, we start thinking about, okay, so now all over again are the diapers, the night feedings, the crying, the trying to juggle schedules and, you know, make everything work. And so, you know, it can be difficult. It can be a space where on the one hand, you're really, really excited about, you know, this new addition to your family. And then on the other hand, when you realize that you were just starting to do something that you really felt fulfilled in, or, you know, that lit up your soul or fed your soul, there was that little bit of, I'm going to say disappointment, not to put words in your mouth, but I'm going to say disappointment.
No. Yeah, I get what you mean. Yeah.
And, you know, for women, this is something that, you know, a lot of people don't think about, is that it changes everything. It shifts everything. So I know you said that you talked about manifesting your new home and everything that you needed to make everything work swimmingly. But let's go from the screaming at the universe, why is this happening, to the work that you do today. Because I
Yeah.
know from personal experience that that switch doesn't flip overnight.
No.
So
Yes.
how did you start to take those little steps and shift into that different mindset?
Yeah, yeah. So I'm really glad you brought this up, because I think one of the biggest issues that we still have is that there's no one really that talks about this, right? Because a baby is a gift, a baby is a blessing, which is absolutely right. But if a woman is mentally in a different headspace and then is given another baby, it is really, really extreme mental work. And I think no one really that doesn't go through that actually realizes how much mental work is involved into it. And so that at the start, it was that constant, obviously, guilt feeling that my head wanted to work on my business and do obviously everything else. And but my heart was telling me, no, I need to be with this baby. And obviously that's what I was doing. But to not react, not to, let my other children feel how I was actually really feeling.
Mm-hmm.
I needed to work on my mental state, and I needed to change. Like, I literally needed to change the way I was looking at my life, right? So I needed to reprogram my mind, really. So the only way that happened was by, through meditation and taking time to myself, definitely. These were the two. So, and allowing myself to slow down, I think, was another big part, because I needed to find joy in a different way. I needed to find joy outside of what society teaches us that joy is. So a big way for me was then, for example, to pick up my camera and to be capturing my children in the moment, because here I was, I had 3 preschoolers and I had them all home with me. I had my oldest, she was going to daycare 2 days a week, but the others 2 were always with me. Because financially, on top of that, paying for daycare, why I wasn't contributing to the family, was financially just really tough. So we did make a choice, well, okay, I'll stay home with the kids, and but I needed to work out a way of how I could really enjoy that. And that was definitely for me, my photography, and it taught me a different connection, a connection that only people that go through, I think, these, you call it a switch, right? When the switch goes, you kind of, all of a sudden, everything, in the whole world feels different, seems different. It doesn't matter if it's like the trees, or there's all of a sudden this change within you that,
So if I'm hearing your message, what you're saying is you found something that was a common denominator between you and your children, something that was enjoyable to you that you could do with your children to help change your energetic mind space. We get into that, oh my gosh, why is this happening to me? And if we're going to change anything in our life, we have to be able to change that energy, to shift that energy.
Yes,
so
exactly.
What I hear you saying is that the way it worked for you was through your photography.
Yes, exactly. And even so, obviously kids that are close in age, they're 5, right? And I was always concentrating on capturing a moment of connection where they were just beautiful playing together, or a connection of, like, a moment of love, a moment that gave me goosebumps at the end of the day, that we experienced that day. And that then made me go to bed with a full heart. And I guess that's the other thing, because it was all about heart connection, and my connection to the heart got stronger and stronger and stronger. And that's what I realize now that I create with the universe, because it's all about our connection to the heart. But so many people are so closed off from that, right? Because in everyday life, we don't actually get taught how to connect to our heart, and how, so it's a lot of work to actually get there again. And so that's, absolutely, that photography gave that back to me, that really strong connection.
And it would seem to me that the photography also put you in a state of gratitude,
Yeah.
because anyone who teaches this work will tell you that the quickest way to start manifesting what you really want is to be in gratitude, to find things that you're grateful for, but know the energy around being grateful, not just sitting there saying, I'm grateful for this, I'm grateful for
Yeah.
that, because that's what
I have to feel it.
that's usually the way that it starts out. It's like, fine, then I'll sit here and find things that I'm grateful for, and you're like, but my life sucks and I'm tired of this. So being able to make that shift is really, it's work. It's
Yeah.
work. And
Yes.
I think, like I would tell people, inner work, when you make a commitment to do the inner work, it is the most rewarding work that you'll ever do. But I also feel like it's some of the most difficult work you'll ever do, because we have to basically just take a look at everything that we believe to be true and really just lay it bare, shred it open and say, oh my gosh, where did all this come from? And why do I believe this? And where is my mindset on that? And if you're not raised that way, if you're not taught to do that, it can seem like you're really just doing something that is so out of the box that it doesn't seem like it's possible that it can work.
Absolutely. And I think, see, Nancy, I think the reason why I got on this journey in the first place was because as I was starting my photography business, I also went along to conferences, like photography conferences, and there's this one lady in Australia, she put on a conference, the Baby Summit, so especially designed for newborn photographers, family and maternity photographers, and mainly mothers. But there's been these amazing speakers on stage, and through them I then started my personal development journey. So that personal development journey had already started like 4 years before.
Mm-hmm.
So that obviously already, and then on top of that, as I started my own personal development journey, I realized, wow, how do I actually want to raise my children? Because I don't want them to get to the same point in their life where they have to, work through all these limiting beliefs by trying to create a happy life and a success for themselves. So I was, reading about brain development and how, books like The Whole Brain Child. I wanted to know how does their brain work and what development stage are they at? And then obviously the spirit side of things then came in as well. And especially when, my second daughter, she's the middle one, she's the most connected to spirit. And when there was messages coming from her at the time before I had my real awakening, it was like eye-opening as well, because there was a friend one day visiting, her dad had passed away, and she would play with our dog, and she would turn around and said, Amy, this is my friend's name, she said, Sammy says your daddy is missing you. And we're like, wow, okay. So she had that connection really, really obviously early, and because I was starting to be on this journey, I started to, okay, wow, realize, whereas normal parents probably just think, oh, that's the child's imagination.
Yeah, we really can learn a lot from our children. Our children are great teachers. They teach us to look at ourselves, why we make the choices that we do. I think every parent has been to a place when they've said to their child, you have to do X, Y, and Z, and the child will say, why? And the parent will say, because I said so. And, when a parent gets to that point, like, because I said so, they're either past the point of exhaustion, or they really don't know why they're directing the child to do that. And having the child ask that question is frustrating to the parent. So again, when we can commit to doing the inner work and understanding where our thoughts come from, why we believe what we do, why we make the choices that we do, where this conditioning came from, how we brought with us from childhood thoughts, feelings, emotions, and beliefs that are either serving us or not serving us in adulthood, but we're so on automatic pilot that we're not even paying attention to something that may not be happening the way we think it should be happening.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And it becomes so powerful when you look at your parenting journey more as looking at your own triggers rather than looking at how do I actually fix my child, because the child is perfect the way it is. So it's really us that kind of mess it up.
Well, and we're being taught these things all along, but so what would you say? I know that you had that transition and you are now living a life where you understand that things happen for us and not to us. But how, if a struggling mom came to you and said, oh my gosh, I'm so overwhelmed, I don't have the time to do what I want to do, and I just had another baby and now everything's been pushed back once again, and she's feeling overwhelmed, overworked, overtired, over everything, what would you suggest to her?
Slow down. Slow down is the most important part, but it's also the hardest, because we put these expectations on ourselves, right? Society teaches us that, you are someone if you're busy. Like it doesn't matter where you go to the shops and people ask you, oh, have you had a busy day? And if you say, no, I didn't, you kind of, oh, like, people look at you like, well, okay. And I think that's the biggest problem we're facing right now, that it is actually looked at success and something, you are someone that achieves well if you are busy all the time. So it's actually really difficult first to go like, okay, I'm not going to do this, because I'm now actually looking at what I need, and my needs are to have a calmer life right now so that I can cope better. And it means I'm going to say no thank you to some invitations or some activities. I might have my child, especially if they are younger. I think the other problem is that we are overscheduling, that they are doing so many activities that, mothers are literally struggling just to get through the days. But do they not need that? They don't actually need that. Organize a play date with a friend and get them to come to your house. Watch your children play. This is what they need, especially as they're young, and they can do their activities as they get older. And, we always had an activity, but for us, it's always been the swimming, but we have that on a Saturday when my husband is home. And then, we do the singing classes, and it's just little things where, for example, there's one in our community, and there's, the kids do music class, and then they go to play in the play group, and mums get to have a coffee together, and where the communities, all the ladies that look after the kids while mums do that. So try and finding things where you can have a bit of downtime yourself while you're giving something to your child. I think it's really important.
So what I hear you saying too then is that you're commit to something, to commit to others less, commit to yourself more. Yes. And know that when you're committing to yourself and putting yourself first, that you're actually being self-preserving and not selfish.
Exactly. And this is, and that's so ingrained in most of our heads, and something that I had to learn, because my mum was definitely always rushing and trying to give us everything, and not like, it wasn't a generation where they put themselves first ever, right? And so that's what we have to learn, really. So our generation has to relearn how to value ourselves and how to put ourselves first without actually being selfish, because you're not selfish by putting yourself first, and you're teaching your children how important it is to put yourself first as well, because otherwise they are always going to struggle with the same thing, and it's not going to make them happy either.
So what would you suggest, like if a mom's, because when things are happening in our life and we're so convinced that nothing could possibly change, like, what do you mean slow down? I can't possibly do that. I'm committed here and I'm committed there. What would you suggest to them? What are your suggestions to, because it has to be baby steps. It can't just be something like you say, okay, I'm just going to quit everything tomorrow. No. That doesn't work. So how do you suggest to moms that they take that first step?
Well, the first step I would say is try and find a time in your day where you communicate to your husband, or if you have family, where you say, okay, I'm going to have half an hour to myself. If that is best for you to have in the morning, do it in the morning. If it's best for you to have at the end of the day, have it at the end of the day. But it's really important to start to actually include time to yourself into your day. If you don't have that, you can't, that's why you're not coping if you're not including that in your
Well,
day.
it's like writing a book, right? If you say you're going to write a book, then you want to take, let's just say 30 minutes of your day, and you say, this is 30 minutes that I'm just going to sit and write because I am determined to get this book to the publisher. And so what you're saying is, the same thing essentially. I am going to take this 30 minutes or 1 hour or whatever it is for me.
Perfect. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And you're going to make that a habit, a pattern that you do day in and day out, where people know, no, during this time, just pretend like I'm not here. I don't exist. You can't knock on the door and say, can I interrupt you? Because the answer is no. So it's about boundaries, wouldn't you say?
Yes, absolutely. And it is something that can be quite difficult, because you literally have to teach your family that these are your boundaries now, because if they're used to you giving all the time, it takes a lot of strength from you to actually step up and put these boundaries up. But the problem is no one else can do it for you. You are the only person that can do it. And like, even when I started writing my book and I started to get back into my business, it was quite difficult, because I really had to prepare myself mentally for everyone in the family was kind of wanting me going back to normal, but I had to have these boundaries up to let them know, no, this is what mum is doing, and constantly see ahead, why am I doing it? And I think that vision of why am I doing it is really important as well at the same time, because if you kind of don't know what it is that you want to achieve, what it is that you want in your future, it's really difficult to stick to something. So
now, I don't have small children at home anymore, but in my years of learning things in hindsight, I would say also that we as parents tend to think that our children are too young to understand when we need to tell them a process or a procedure. But I don't believe that the children are too young to understand. When we say, okay, this is mommy time, and then you teach them that, just like this is teeth brushing time. I was going to say toothbrushing time. It's the same thing. And so as we are teaching them those boundaries, they then are also learning their own boundaries for, how they can encroach or respect another person's boundary.
Yeah. And it's so powerful, I believe. Absolutely. Yes.
So much has happened since I had my children. My daughters are 38 and 39 now, right? And so.
Oh no! Yeah. Oh, absolutely. It's a very different time now. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's almost like, oh my gosh, I have all this information and all of this knowledge, and it would be so cool to start all over again.
All again, yes.
Not really. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, be careful what you wish for.
No, I'm like loving the grandchildren, right? Because then I can give them the, I don't know, just the love and joy that I have for my life and who I am, and what I do in my life. It lights me up every single day. And I feel that being able to give that to my grandchildren is another way for them to see how adults function, if you will, in the adult world. Like, okay, this is what I'm used to mom doing. This is what I'm used to dad doing. But when Grammy comes in, Grammy does this, and wow, that's like different. And of course, always respecting, the parents and how they're raising the children. I think that's very important as well. But yeah, it's just so different now, where we are actually understanding that, children understand. Just have conversations with them, talk to them like they were, your best friend, and have these conversations with them, and then truly listen to the feedback and the things that they
Yeah.
come back at you with. Some of the
Yes.
things my grandkids say to me, I'm like,
Yeah.
seriously, you are so smart, you know?
Yes. Yeah. Sometimes I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm raising such strong strong personalities. Whew. That's
Absolutely.
the other side of it.
So, okay, so someone's watching this video conversation and she's saying to herself, okay, so Rebecca tells me that I need to make some more time for myself, that I need to stop overcommitting.
Yeah.
But how do I start that? Like, because the lady at the PTA is used to me baking cookies every Friday, and I feel like that's an obligation. And the teacher is used to me working in the classroom Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And, you know, so we commit and then we have to uncommit.
Uncommit. Yes.
And of course,
Yes.
doing the work that I do, I would say, all right, so that's a belief that you have that you can't uncommit. But how would you counsel a mom about that?
It's absolutely, like you say, I would first say the same thing. We have to look at the belief that you actually carry around it, and then we have to change that belief first. And obviously, I always do this kind of work with meditation and changing it, okay, and visualization. Okay, how do you actually want? Where do you want to give, and where is it too much? So I think it's important to find first that line of where do I see myself helping, and where do I feel like it feels like there's too much giving, right? Because sometimes, yeah, there's giving that feels good, and other times it's where you feel like you're just the one that constantly gives, and that's obviously the one that I would say let's go of first. So also go inward and have a feel how does it actually feel? Does it make me feel good, that giving, or does it actually make me feel empty and depleted
Right.
after?
Right.
And then again, starting with little steps, just because at the start, every change is not very nice. It feels uncomfortable at the start, but the more you practice saying no, the easier that will come as well, because it's practice.
So when you're suggesting to a new mom or a mom that has, you know, their children is a couple years old, and you're easing her into meditation. So
Yeah.
for moms, you know, you can sit down and you're like, okay, I'm going to take these 15 minutes and meditate. And then you're sitting there with 15 minutes and then mom's thinking like, okay, I'm just going to go within and I'm going to meditate. But I really should be doing the laundry and I really should be, you know, making those cookies. And how do you help women shift out of that mindset of what I should be doing versus taking time for myself?
I think the meditation, it's for someone who doesn't have any meditation practice, and for someone who hasn't been taking time for themselves, I don't recommend them starting meditating straight away, because I think that's too much of a difference, really. So I recommend to, you know, try and spend more time in nature first, or go for a swim, whatever that is that connects you to yourself, really, or to some art class or some painting. Because you kind of need to get in a flow, really, by distracting yourself first to stop thinking, right?
Right.
So whatever that is, or photography is really, really good as well. So it's first finding something that gets your mind quiet and that kind of lights your soul up. So I would always start with that. And then when it gets to meditation, I think visualizing is really powerful at the start. Like, you know, dreaming. I'm a dreamer. I can always dream. I don't know if some people might struggle with that, but for me, I don't know. That comes really easy to me. So that's why visualization is, I think what I would always recommend to start with, because then you kind of put pictures in your mind. You know, is it that beach and drinking a cocktail at the beach that you're dreaming of, or is it that new home, or like whatever that is for you? Just see yourself and feel yourself doing that, and I think, to start, because then you also have a different picture in your head, right? So you kind of let go of that laundry that needs to be done and put yourself into where you want to see yourself.
It's about daydreaming, wouldn't you say? Allowing yourself to daydream.
Yes.
That thing we yell at our kids to stop doing, like, what are you staring at? Why are you staring out the window? What's the matter with you? Well, because they've got it going on in their head, and we're telling them, no, you shouldn't do that. So we're teaching them, when you grow up and you're going to be like me because you can't let go of your mind and just relax and have some me time.
Yes, it's pretty crazy, isn't it? So yes, that's like, I let my children, I'll try not to dream as much as they can. It's often hard in the everyday life, but I definitely, my middle child is an absolute dreamer. So it takes us a lot longer to get everywhere, but you know, we pick lots of flowers and rocks and shells depending on where we are on the way. So,
and I think that that's what you're saying as well about slowing down, you know, rather than say, okay, I have to be at the store at 4 o'clock and, you know, I'm going to leave at 3:45, leave, you know, 45 minutes early. That way you take time for the skipping and the flower smelling and the rock picking and stuff, because that's what's so cool. You know, I remember when my oldest grandson, who is now 20, we live 2 blocks from Disneyland. And so I would, you know, take him to Disneyland quite often, and I would always drive. And one day I said, Anthony, today let's walk. And he was like, walk to Disneyland? You know, it was so far out of, it's not that he didn't want to walk, but we've never done that before. So we walked to Disneyland, and the conversation that we had during the walk and the things that he picked out on the walk and the things that he would not have seen or had never noticed because we were always in the car getting there, you know, really quickly. And it was a total different experience going to Disneyland, being at Disneyland, and then returning home, because it was just a total different mindset for him.
Absolutely. It's so powerful. And that connection being built then is also what he'll always remember. He'll remember that one day that he walked with you instead of, you know, all the times that you took him in the car, because it made it so much more special.
And it's just shifting up those, I don't know, those habits, you know, gentle shifts. I like to call them shifts, because when we say it's a change, then we feel like, oh my God, that's work. But when we say it's a shift, it's just a gradual shift, just like, no, going smoothly. It's okay. Take your time, however long it takes. Yeah. Rebecca, I think what you're doing is so fabulous. And I know that you were one of 26 other authors who published your story in a book called Trailblazers, and I've had the fortune to meet so many of the authors. How has being a published author changed your life?
Well, it's hard to explain. I definitely, first of all, never thought that I would be a published author. Can I start with that? Because and then, you know, a published author in English, because obviously it's German that, you know, at school, I was always quite not very good in English class, but I always still kind of did English, even so I could have let go of it. But somehow I knew that I needed it, obviously. I guess it was only a feeling that I needed, that I felt like I need to, you know, I want to travel and I want to, you know, keep English in my, keep studying English. But anyway, I was never very good at it, and I was never good at writing either. And the problem for me was because obviously, you know, growing up in Germany, going to school, you get taught a certain way. This is how you write. This is how your sentence needs to sound. So for me, as soon as I started writing, I was in my head and there was nothing there. So I was like, what? I don't know. What am I supposed to write? So as soon as I picked up a pen, I was in my head. So I guess there was no connection until I, you know, started my photography journey and I started to really connect to my heart. And the universe literally kept sending me the signs that I needed to write. And I was like, oh, it's weird. I kind of feel like I need to write books. I mean, I've always kind of joked about it because I love, you know, sharing wisdom. So I've always joked about, oh, one day I'm going to write a book. But I never thought I'd actually do it. And so yeah, now having actually, you know, written a chapter of the international bestseller, I'm like, wow, it's unbelievable. It's crazy, really.
So what I hear
um,
you saying too is that you overcame two of your biggest fears.
yes,
Number one, writing in English, and
yeah,
number two, you know, the grammar part of it, and asking your maybe three things, you know, like what would I write about? What about my life is newsworthy that someone would want to read? And as you published your story, you realize, well, come to think of it, there's a heck of a lot about my life that people will want to read.
yeah. And also, obviously, there's things like, oh, am I going to upset my mum? Because I don't want her to feel upset, because obviously she's, you know, she's done the very best that her generation knew. Even so, mine, like I'm doing it very, very differently. So I never wanted to upset her with speaking my truth either. So I think that was my biggest fear about sharing my story.
Mm.
And but I think, yes, it feels amazing to be an international best-selling author, but really the biggest, like, yeah, the most amazing feeling for me that came through it is like my story's out and I have nothing to hide. And it's the most freeing thing. And I'm literally going like, I'm having goosebumps all over my body, because I'm like, I want every woman to do it, because it's like, it's so powerful just to go like, I'm going to be an open book and I'm going to share it. And yeah, it's up now.
Yes, it really is empowering to put your story out there, and, you know, to be able to say to people, you know what, at first I was afraid that I would be judged or someone would be mad at me, or whatever. All that, of course, is in our head. And even if all that came to fruition, we face things as we need to face them. And
Yeah,
if we live in the now, face it when it happens rather than try to keep it from happening in the future, our lives are so much more peaceful, don't you think?
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, yes.
Rebecca, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom, your purpose, your passion. Can you tell people how to connect with you, how to get a hold of you if they'd like to know more or read your story in the Trailblazers book?
Absolutely. Well, so my group is called Aligned Mothers on a Mission. So at the moment, you find me on Facebook and Instagram. My website is currently in the making, so that's still being put together at the moment. But also, obviously, my business name, my photography business is called Rebecca Tannock Photography. So you can find my website, rebeccatannockphotography.com, or you can find me on Facebook and Instagram as well.
Fantastic. And for all of you watching this video conversation, please subscribe to our channel. Leave us some comments. Let us know what you thought, because I have so many valuable and interesting conversations with so many different people that it's bound to touch the life of someone who is struggling or has questions, or maybe they think like nobody else would understand if I raise my hand and say, this doesn't make sense to me. I've always been that person that'll just raise my hand, and I figured, you know what, I'm just going to ask the question because I need to know the answer. And I can always hear 50 sighs in the room like, oh my God, I'm so glad she asked the question because I needed to know the answer too. And that's what happens, you know? So subscribe to the channel, comment, leave us a message, and you be that person who says, you know what, I found some value in this and I'm going to share it, because you never know who needs to hear this message. And by that, we are all creating this ripple effect to empower, inspire, and motivate people all over the world. And I thank you very much. Rebecca, thank you for being a guest here. And you, the audience, thank you for taking the time to listen to this conversation, to watch this video. And I so appreciate you. My name is Nancy Mueller. And in the meantime, this is Nancy Mueller saying ciao for now.
Thank you.